For centuries, empires have risen and fallen. From Rome to London, from Washington grew was a power blow today. History has taught one undeniable truth: might may win battles, but will wins wars. Iran is not just a country marked by borders. It is a legacy, layered in unshakable belief, and forged by generations who've learned to endure. You see, you can sanction a nation. You can isolate it, demonize it, even threaten it from every angle. But cannot defeat an identity rooted in something deeper than politics. This story is not about sides. It's not about flags or headlines. It's about the one thing the West still underestimates: resilience born of resistance. Because when the dust settles and the smoke clears, some nations stand not because they are the strongest, but because they refuse to kneel. This is the story of why Iran, after all the attempts, all the pressure, and all the predictions, is the one country the West still can't defeat. Would you like this adapted into a video narration script, cinematic trailer format, or paired with background musical visual ideas? Cultural resilience rooted in thousands of years of history, a strategic geography to goal invention, the unified national identity despite external pressure, self-reliance in military and regional influence, enduring defiance against foreign intervention. Iran's resilience begins not with politics or modern military strategy, but with something far deeper. Its cultural roots, stretching back over 500 years, Iran's identity is forged through one of the oldest continuous civilizations on Earth. Unlike nations formed in recent centuries, Iran has evolved through eras of conquest, collapse, and rebirth. From the great Achaemenid Empire that ruled vast territories across 3 continents, to the intellectual flourishing during the Islamic Golden Age, Iran has consistently demonstrated its ability to not only survive but to thrive through adversity. Its deep historical awareness is woven into the mindset of its people. It is not something that can be sanctioned, bombed, or coerced into submission. It is in their poetry, their language, their art, their rituals, and their collective memory. When the West views conflict, it often sees strategy in terms of weaponry and alliances. But Iran's defense is much psychological and cultural as it is physical. The Iranian people have inherited a long tradition of endurance, shaped by the invasions of Alexander the Great, the Arab conquest, the Mongol onslaught, and colonial pressures from Europe and Russia. Yet through it all, they've preserved their Persian identity, language, and culture. That in itself is a form of resistance more powerful than any army. The spirit that allowed Iran to resist and reconstitute itself again and again is what continues to make it immovable in the eyes of its adversaries. The collective pride in this history isn't just nostalgia, it's a unifying force. In moments of crisis, when many nations fracture from within, Iran often doubles down its identity. It looks inward, relying on its own deep well of traditions to navigate modern threats. This cultural confidence creates a national psyche that views pressure from the outside world not as a crisis, but as yet another chapter in an already long saga of resistance. The attempts by the West to destabilize Iran often fail to account for this internal fortitude. Outsimplify about defying sanctions or enduring isolation. It's about an ancient people who believe, with justified conviction, that they've been here before and survived worse. Western power is often varied by economic cycles, military budgets, and shifting political winds. Iran's power, by contrast, is anchored in something that doesn't erode with time: cultural permanence. This gives the Iranian people a sense of purpose and belonging that cannot be manufactured. It's what gives a nation the patience to endure long-term struggles without collapsing. The West struggle as native because it can't be measured in tanks or GDP. But it's real, and it's potent. Cultural resilience is Iran's silent armor, and that's what makes it undefeatable. Iran's geographic location is not just a place on a map. It is a position of profound global consequence. Situated at the crossroads of Central Asia, the Middle East, and South Asia, Iran commands one of the most strategic territories in the world. It borders 7 countries and stretches across thousands of kilometers of coastline along the Persian Gulf and the Gulf of Oman. At the heart of this positioning lies the Strait of Hormuz, a narrow waterway through which more than 1/5 of the world's oil supply passes. Control or even influence over this choke point gives Iran enormous geopolitical leverage. Any disruption here doesn't just impact the region, it sends economic shockwaves across the entire planet. The West, particularly the United States, understands the significance of this geography all too well. That's why every military deployment, every alliance, and every diplomatic maneuver in the region must account for Iran's location. Unlike other nations that can be isolated or contained, Iran is embedded in the region's geography in a way that cannot be undone. It serves as a land bridge connecting different cultures, economies, and conflict zones, from the Caspian Sea in the north to the Arabian Sea in the south. It's a pivotal actor in any equation involving Afghanistan, Iraq, Pakistan, Turkey, or the Gulf states. In other words, nothing happens in this part of the world without Iran being involved in some form. Whether directly or indirectly, this strategic depth gives Iran options. It allows for both defensive and offensive positioning. In times of pressure, Iran can rely on its vast interior, which is difficult to invade or occupy due to its mountainous terrain and natural barriers. This terrain has historically frustrated invaders, from ancient empires to modern armies. Moreover, its proximity to regional flashpoints enables Iran to build influence across borders. Whether it's in Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, or Yemen, Iran can project power through alliances and proxy networks for UNBROKEN strategic arc across the Middle East. But geography alone doesn't explain Iran's strength. It's how Iran uses its geography that matters. It has built a military doctrine not around direct confrontation, but around asymmetrical advantage. Its naval forces in the Persian Gulf are small but agile, trained for speed and strategic disruption rather than large-scale battles. It has developed missile systems designed to cover every U.S. military base within striking range. In short, Iran has weaponized its location without needing to match Western powers tank for tank or ship for ship. The mere threat of closing the Strait of Hormuz, even temporarily, is enough to cause spikes in global oil prices and create panic in energy markets. This is the unique reality the West must contend with. Iran's geography cannot be bypassed, encircled, or dismissed. It is not a vulnerability. It is a form of power, and in a world where energy security and trade are all intertwined, this power makes Iran not just resilient, but essential. That alone makes it a country the West can pressure, but never truly defeat. One of the most underestimated sources of Iran's strength is its deeply unified national identity, which remains remarkably intact despite decades of external pressure, isolation, and conflict. While many countries fracture along ethnic, political, or ideological lines when faced with sanctions, invasions, or propaganda campaigns, Iran consistently turns inward and reinforces its national cohesion. That cohesion is not accidental. It's the result of centuries of shared culture, collective memory, and a historical narrative that places resistance at the very center of Iranian identity. Iran is held to diverse ethnic groups including Persians, Azeris, Kurds, Arabs, and others. Yet, despite this diversity, the population identifies strongly with the broader Iranian nation-state. What unites them is a common sense of history and destiny. That history includes centuries of foreign invasions, from the Greeks to the Mongols to the colonial intrusions of Britain and Russia. Over time, Iranians have come to see themselves as a people that have always endured foreign interference and emerged stronger. This narrative is reinforced through literature, religion, education, and national storytelling. It is not propaganda in the traditional sense. It's a deeply rooted belief shared across generations and communities, regardless of social class or ethnicity. Even in moments of political disagreement or economic hardship, Iranians tend to rally together when they sense external threats. This rally around the flag phenomenon is not unique to Iran, but what makes it particularly powerful there is how it's ingrained in the national psyche. When Western powers impose sanctions, apply diplomatic pressure, or issue military threats, the effect is often the opposite of what's intended. Rather than turning the population against Thinghuith, these actions frequently trigger a wave of patriotism and national solidarity. The Iranian identity becomes stronger, not weaker. Religious identity also plays a role. Iran is a predominantly Shia Muslim nation in a region largely composed of Sunni majority countries. This has created a sense of distinctiveness and a need to protect its ideological and spiritual sovereignty. While the Islamic Republic system is complex and has its critics within, the broader population recognizes that their religious and national identity is closely intertwined. Attempts to dismantle the regime are often viewed not simply as attacks on leadership but as attacks on Iran's autonomy, culture, and belief systems. Moreover, this unified identity has been sustained through decades of living under sanctions, diplomatic asserts, and hostile rhetoric from global powers. These pressures, rather than weakening the national spirit, have in many cases hardened it. The result is a country that may experience internal debates and challenges, but rarely sees a collapse in national will. The Iranian people, whether supportive or critical of their leaders, often draw a firm line when it comes to forward-drimation. This unity is what makes Iran so difficult to destabilize or defeat. While Western strategies often rely on internal division to erode a state's strength from within, Iran has shown time and again that its national identity is not just intact. It is unbreakable. That internal solidarity is a silent but formidable defense. Iran's ability to resist external dominations closely tied to its focus on self-reliance in both military capabilities and regional influence. Decades of sanctions, isolation, and threats have not crippled Iran. Instead, they have forced the country to develop domestic solutions in areas where other nations might depend on foreign support. What was intended as pressure to weaken the nation became over time a catalyst for innovation, autonomy, and strategic adaptation. Iran may not have the largest military or the most advanced technology compared to the West, but has built a defense and influence structure designed specifically for survival, deterrence, and regional leverage. Iran's military doctrine is centered around asymmetrical warfare and strategic deterrence. This means rather than trying to match conventional Western forces in terms of tanks, aircraft, or aircraft carriers, Iran has built tools that are cost-effective, unpredictable, and hard to counter. It has developed one of the largest missile arsenals in the region, capable of striking American bases and allies within a wide radius. These missiles are not merely symbolic, they are a critical part of Iran's deterrence posture. The message is clear: any attack on Iran will not come without consequences. Beyond missiles, Iran has invested heavily in cyber capabilities, drones, and regional alliances. Its drone technology, once mocked for being rudimentary, has evolved significantly and is now viewed as a serious threat by both Western and regional military analysts. Iranian drones have been used not only for surveillance but also for strategic strikes in conflict zones. These tools allow Iran to project power far beyond its borders, even without traditional air superiority. The country has also built a vast network of regional alliances and proxies across the Middle East. The Hezbollah in Lebanon, various militias in Iraq, the Houthis in Yemen, and influence in Syria have allowed Iran to extend its reach across the region. This network is often referred to as Iran's forward defense, a strategy that ensures any threat to Iran home can be met with responses throughout the region. It's not just about defending Iranian soil, it's about shaping regional dynamics in a way that prevents isolation and increases bargaining power. Iran's self-reliance extends to defense manufacturing as well. Faced with arms embargoes and restrictions, Iran has created its own military-industrial base. It produces tanks, rockets, missiles, radars, and other technologies that allow it to operate independently. While these systems may not match Western standards in terms of sophistication, they are well-designed, tested, and tailored to Iran's environment and strategic needs. This entire structure, missiles, proxies, drones, cyber tools, and indigenous production, represents a model of survival built under pressure. Iran doesn't need to win. In conventional terms, its goal is to make any attack or invasion too costly to pursue. This kind of resilience doesn't rely on alliances or imported firepower. It is built, sustained, and operated from within. That self-reliance is not just military, it's psychological, and it is one of the core reasons Iran remains unconquered despite decades of pressure. Iran's defiance against foreign intervention is not a recent phenomenon. It is a defiant feature of its national character, one that has shaped its modern political philosophy and geopolitical posture. This enduring defiance is rooted in centuries of experience with foreign interference, coalition, and imposed agendas. From the 19th century encroachments by British and Russian empires to the CIA-led 1953 coup that overthrew Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh, Iranians have a long and bitter memory of outside powers dictating their fate. These memories are just historical footnotes. They are deeply embedded in the national psyche, influencing how the country views the West and how it defends its sovereignty today. This resistance has given rise to a political identity that views independence as non-negotiable. Iran is not merely opposed to foreign control. It is fundamentally shaped by its rejection of it. Its policies, rhetoric, and alliances are all filtered through a lens of protecting national dignity and resisting domination. This mindset explains why Iran often chooses isolation over submission, why it refuses to compromise on core issues even when sanctions cripple its economy, with it against it pushes back against what it perceives as Western arrogance or hypocrisy. Western powers have often misunderstood this posture as irrational or aggressive. In reality, it is a calculated stance of defiance built on historical experience. Iranians have seen what happens when foreign interests control domestic politics. The fall of Mossadegh and the subsequent rise of the Shah, seen by many as a Western puppet, taught the Iranian people that allowing outside powers to dictate internal affairs leads to long-term suppression and cultural erasure. The 1979 Islamic Revolution was not just a rejection of a monarch, it was a declaration of independence from foreign influence. This sense of defiance is not limited to the political elite. It runs through the population. Even Iranians who criticize their government often grow deafened, whose entry is threatened by foreign powers. The distinction between internal reform and external domination is sharply drawn in the Iranian mindset. The West often assumes that economic pressure or military threats will lead the population to turn against their leaders. But time and again, the opposite occurs. Defiance increases, and nationalism is strengthened. Iran has learned to survive on its own terms. Its economy, though strained, has adapted through alternative trade networks, domestic industries, and regional partnerships. Its political leadership has remained intact despite intense international pressure, and its regional influence continues to grow, not because it forces itself into neighboring countries, but because its resistance narrative resonates with other populations who also feel nailed by outside powers. This ability to stand firm in the face of overwhelming pressure, military, economic, and diplomatic, is not just strategy, it is identity. Iran does not seek confrontation for its own sake, it refuses to accept submission. It does not view peace as the absence of conflict, but as the presence of dignity. And that unshakable defiance, forged in history and hardened by experience, is why the West, despite all its power, has not been able to defeat Iran. So, what makes Iran the one country the West can't defeat? It's not just missiles or alliances. It's not just terrain or strategy. It's something deeper. Something rooted in the soul of a nation that has endured centuries of invasion, manipulation, and isolation, yet never surrendered its identity. Iran stands not because it is the most powerful, but because it is among the most resilient. Its culture is ancient, its memory long, and its pride unshakable. Its geography makes it central to every regional equation. Its people, diverse yet united, carry a national consciousness shaped by struggle and resistance. Its military and regional posture may not mirror that of global superpowers, but it is built for one purpose: to survive, to deter, and to endure. And above all, its refusal to bow to external domination isn't a political strategy, it's a generational vow. While empires have come and gone, while borders have been redrawn, Iran remains, unfolding through time, adapting, resisting, and rising again. You can pressure it, isolate it, misunderstand it, but you cannot break it. Because in the heart of every Iranian, there is a quiet but unyielding messaging: we are still here, and we are not going anywhere.